You're tuned into Inside Lowell. Inside Lowell podcast brought to you in part by Washington Savings Bank, serving the greater Lowell community for over 130 years. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. Reverie 73, Lowell's #1 cannabis shop. Elevate your cannabis experience at Reverie 73. Hafner's, heating and cooling homes and businesses for nearly a century. Hafner's, it kicks. And by Boston North Company, restaurant and retail solutions for your business. That's Boston North. And now, time for another Inside Lowell podcast. Inside Lowell. If Lowell is your home, this is your place.
All righty, welcome back to another Inside Lowell podcast, a special reunion show. The Pod Squad is back together. We're going to have some fun tonight, looking at some serious issues and some not so serious ones. First, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you to our sponsors for helping make this podcast, all of our podcasts, and all of Inside Lowell possible. You heard some of them on our fancy new intro there. Made Batch laugh at the music. We'll cement it, Batch. I'm too cheap to pay for any copyrighted stuff. But thank you to everyone for helping make Inside Lowell possible, and thank you to all of you for joining us for what promises to be a fun discussion. And without any further ado, there you have them, folks, back together again for the first time in, oh God, we're like, what are we, six months
yeah.
now? It is the Pod Squad, yours truly, Teddy Panos, along with, starting left to right, Jack Mitchell, Mikaela Hondros-McCarthy, a.k.a. The Hyphen, and Insider Batch, a.k.a. Mike Batchagalupo. Welcome, gang. It's good to be back together.
Yeah, it's good to be back, yeah.
6 months, my goodness.
We got to do this at least on a monthly basis, right? There's enough material, and I can find enough, a sitter to get me out of the house for a little while.
Yeah.
Though I still think you guys should be, ready to fly on your own now. You got enough content.
I've got an idea.
Really?
I was thinking Jake.
Oh, Jake Vitale, yeah. Our newest here at Inside Lowell.
Oh yeah, I don't know him.
You could run the levers, or can Jake pull the levers?
Yeah, you can pull the levers. Listen, I do enough. I'm on this thing enough.
Batch is our most prolific podcast.
He played a straight man too, wicked good.
Who, Jake?
Yeah, and I don't think I don't know his politics, right?
He doesn't want anyone to know his politics.
So I think where you're gonna lean right, he'll at least play the straight man, right? I think if you really need to bail, we can talk amongst ourselves.
I don't care. I'll do whatever.
Let's do one every other. Let's just
Go back and
alternate
forth.
and see what we think.
Yeah.
She says that now until I say something, until I just push that right button and she starts ranting at me into the microphone.
It is fun doing it with you, though.
Yeah.
It's like the old time.
I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing it. It's just, we wish you guys had like days available,
Or
you
we
have
could
real
just
jobs.
do it at the Athenian after hours.
Oh, that would be great.
That could be troublesome.
Yeah. You'll have an advantage because you're the only one that hasn't been drinking.
That would have to be a live, like non-recorded.
Oh yeah, live. Yeah. By the way, the music's great. The audio came out really good from the elevator. It was fantastic.
We did a great job recording. Now you're ready to get your teeth cleaned, aren't you?
Oh yeah.
So, hey, lots has happened since we last got together. Of course, some things just never change because on this day that we're recording this Pod Squad, they cleaned out the dog park. So naturally, we're going to talk about homelessness again. But I want to start talking about the city budget, which passed last week. The city of Lowell passed its budget. Taxes going up again, 3.5%. I remember we used to lose our minds if they went anywhere near 2.5%. Now we're like, all right, well, 3.5%. I can see the argument. So let's start there. Is it a simple fact that this city manager, Tom Golden, this city council, the 11 combined at-large and district councils, have done a good enough job of convincing us of the value of parting with our hard-earned money? Or have we just all lost our minds?
Well, I mean, if you look at it, there's a couple things I think we should consider. Basically in the last, 3 or 4 or 5 years, or at least since 2010, I know that like salaries have gone up way over 25% on average in Massachusetts, right? Inflation's got to be at least, I don't know, at least 8 or 10% since like 2020. I mean, when you factor all those things in, I mean, taxes should at least go up a little bit every year.
Do they? How
know?
often do they do like the assessments of because property values have gone up too?
I think every year.
Every single year.
Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of
No, they don't do the what do they call it, the reevaluation?
I think they do an assessment every year, aren't they supposed to?
No, because remember the last time they did one, people were all pissed off. Because like people came around and they saw like they added stuff and then they.
Well, I don't know if they inspect your homes every year, but the assessor's office does an evaluation every year.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole, kind of shell game, as I like to call it. Well, we kept taxes low, but we raised everybody's assessment, so we're getting the same amount of money from you and vice versa. That said, the assessments, I guess, went up last year along with the 5.5%. So people are complaining, and I'm not gonna say it's not rightfully so. Is it still the right way to run the city, though? Did we need to do it? Are we paying the piper now for the sins of 2005 or 2010?
I think for decades, Lowell has kept their taxes artificially low. And, where, the phrase on the floor, the council floor is the can is kicked down the road. But they just keep piling up, and now at some point, some cans are just unkickable. Things like salaries. I think there was a certain loosey-goosiness in the workforce. People were allowed to do side trips during their work hours. Some of these things are not allowed anymore. And so people are going to expect to get...
Well, Rockingham Park and Suffolk Downs are closed.
Or a golf course or two. So then...
Nashua, they have...
Right, so they're making adjustments to be competitive with salaries. But I think also the change in the charter with districts where there was, say, unlevel approach, services was not level. And now we have district councilors that are demanding a quality of life for their constituency. Yeah. And unless we talked about a little bit this before, if the city government can't render out efficiencies in the city operations, it's going to cost more to provide the same kind of services across 8 districts.
I mean, it does cost a lot of money to plow all the driveways on Clark and Douglas during a snowstorm.
I think cost of services are going up.
Now I know why we don't do this more than once every 6 months. So, okay, cost of services are going up.
Yeah.
You also have to raise the salaries to keep people, right? Because we heard for a year how we're losing people to other cities and towns, and even counselors who, were complaining about the increased taxes and the lack of efficiency we're saying we need to keep these people here. That said, did we need to create all these new positions? Did we really need to, I would have started eliminating the sustainability officer. To me, what a waste of 6 figures that's going to prove to be.
I think that's
but, there are some who say, do we need a 3rd deputy police superintendent? I had Greg Hudon sit here and, Superintendent Hudon sit here and make the argument. It's reasonable. Was now the time to do it? Others, again, the sustainability office. Did we need to create all these other positions out there? Is that part of making government better, delivering better services?
The sustainability office needed to happen, and it will pay back in dividends with all of the federal dollars and the state dollars. It's keeping up with the state goals, and Lowell should not be left behind.
Like the recycling saved us a ton of money?
That's a different thing. That's a completely different... Because the grant funding is not the same for recycling services than it is for all of these other sustainability, like building decarbonization.
Why not? Was there anything more green than recycling was a decade ago? And we were told you're going to save all this money. Recycling is cheaper than throwing it in the trash.
Well, they did.
And now we pay more for recycling than we do for trash. It's the old bait and switch. They get you hooked on something, and then boom, here comes the price increase.
I don't think you can compare the two. I think sustainability is a lot broader than something like recycling.
But that industry did change. I mean, I thought at one point you could they were taking it and then they stopped.
China stopped taking it.
Because once you start collecting something, it seems like a nice idea to save that old rocking chair in your basement. And 10 years later, you've got a basement full of junk.
Well, I mean, Gunther used to explain it would decrease the recycling was decreasing the overall tonnage, and that lowered your cost. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's the case anymore, right? So it's changed.
It's cheaper to burn something and get rid of it than to store it and recycle it.
In the short term, but who has to breathe in all that air and all of that stuff? So.
Well, it depends on which way the wind's blowing.
Good news is if you die of hunger because you can't afford to pay your taxes and your green initiatives, you don't have to worry.
Well, there is that issue of affordability, right? The taxes, I mean, it's easy to say you should raise them at the rate of inflation, but that's not going to work in Lowell. So, I mean, they were kicking the can down the road a lot of times. There's a balance. I think they're trying to find the balance.
With the new system.
Yeah.
Right. So we have the new system of districts, and there's adjustments being made. There's a little bit of experimentation. Tom Golden opted in to be the first city manager under the new system. Coincidentally, we had the global pandemic, so there's all this COVID money that's coming in, right? The last city manager tried to sort of steer the expenditure of that money, but this council came in and shit-canned that. So now Tom Golden is riding with this new budget and with the COVID money. And it's, I think we get short-sighted in that we start thinking like, well, if we allow it, it'll always happen in perpetuity. So I think we can take some steps and see where it goes. The question though becomes, if there are missteps, can we critique and apply it to the city administration, whether it's the manager or even the next, right? Without sort of hurting anybody's feelings. Because some counselors will throw bombs, but most of the counselors tend to be pretty go along to get along. I mean, if they're making sharp remarks, they're probably doing it one-on-one and not on the council floor.
Well, I think
it's constructive criticism. Like it's, are we going to be able to measure things, the progress this year, and then apply it to next year's budget?
We could kick more cans down the road. We might be handling cans, but if we're handling them wrong, then is that any better than kicking them down the road?
Yeah, it's not always appropriate to handle cans, so you got to be careful with that. But I think the thing I have an issue with is the process, right? So not 100% how it works, but cutting out $12,000 of a $500 million budget on the city council floor, like there's got to be a better way. Like I'd like to see, I know like where I work, all the departments give me a budget, we look at it, we talk about it, bring it to a subcommittee. Subcommittee was made up of board members and everybody else.
Finance subcommittee.
Subcommittee,
yep.
Right? And then
before you bring it to the finance subcommittee, do you form a blue ribbon committee?
Yes, you have a committee on the committee. No, but you just I would just do a finance committee. Like the budget should be brought to a finance committee made up of a couple of councilors. They should be like, yeah, we want to see more of this, less of this, whatever. And by the time it gets to the floor, it should be hammered out, and you're voting on the total bottom line, up or down. That's how I would do it.
If there's any adjustments to it at that first finance committee, or any you find a typo or whatever it is, you then maybe have another finance committee meeting and where you go through the second draft. If there's a material adjustment like there was for this one, so you're just not given the information and then voting on it that night.
Yeah, I mean, the process was a little weird.
But if you think about it, it's now a $500 million budget. But even when it was $300 million or whatever number, it's a big ass budget. Lowell is a big city. It's a big budget. Ton of line items. What are we going to go through each line by line and start making cuts? I mean, you trust the city manager to put a budget together. Mm-hmm. And whether that manager is Tom Golden or Eileen Donahue or Kevin Murphy or Bernie Lynch, you have to say, all right, put this budget together. You almost, I don't want to say rubber stamp it, but you almost have to, aren't you?
No, I think there's a healthy amount of trust that goes into it, but you're also, it's a check, right? Like you need to make sure that you're presenting a budget that people can ask questions on. And that's sometimes how these questions come up. And that's why you have a second draft. So nothing, if you're not measuring it and if you're not really checking it, where's the accountability in putting the budget together? How do you know? If I know I'm presenting a budget and it's going to be rubber stamped, I might not do all the due diligence I need to make sure everything's accurate.
Well, if that budget's been put together based on what a year long of priorities by the council, unless the manager's putting things in there that the council has not said that they want. And again, I go back to those new positions. I get it, legitimate reason to have a a debate on those, right? Do we need a third deputy superintendent? You know,
Yeah, that's fine.
Because the council didn't specifically direct that. Council, I mean, I think they did kind of direct to get, you know, this whole sustainability thing. So to then turn around and fight over that seems kind of silly to me.
Yeah.
You said, I want XYZ, you get XYZ, it doesn't come for free. So to then turn around and complain about the cost of XYZ, to me seems kind of silly, doesn't it?
Budget is supposed to be a reflection of our values, right? So what you said,
I was waiting for you to say that.
no, I know, I agree. Like if an attuned manager will hear the sentiments expressed through the sort of the what happens on the floor, right? And so it starts making what is the vision of the council, and then because I get into disagreements with people. I think that my daughter just called me, and so that threw me off. I think the manager is an extension of the council. Sorry, baby.
Hopefully it's not an emergency.
No, if it is, I'll let her know.
Step aside if you need to.
So I think the manager is an extension of the council. So I think it's the obligation and the duty of the manager, not Tom Golden, the manager, right? To listen and forecast the vision of the council, right? And if need be, talk with the individual councilors. But most of that information should be mined out on the floor through the direction of the motions. Okay?
But I also think he's got a responsibility to his department heads too, to make sure that the city runs. And some of the stuff, like I don't want an elected body making all those decisions. I mean, you really have to talk to people that know that there's a balance. It's going to be both.
Someone that's like embedded in the operations that sees it day to day will know how feasible some of the aspects.
Yeah, you need checks and balances.
Well, that's why I'm kind of pushing back a little on this. You know, we should go through it line by line and have 11 counselors cast votes on it. Like,
no, do it in subcommittee.
Do they really know what's going on in the day-to-day operations? Obviously, you know, you want them to be informed. But, you know, it was interesting to Jack's point, you know, it needs to be the vision of the council and whatnot. Tom Golden said over and over again, I wish I had a buck for every time he said, you know, through the wisdom of this council, and, you know, they told me what they wanted, and I'm, you know, this is but he really kind of threw that budget on their laps. Now, was he kind of blowing smoke a little bit? Were there things in there that were his budget? Of course there were. But if he put something in that budget that a majority of those counselors didn't think was a priority, an expression of our values, as you worded it, then I think you would have seen a lot more pushback. It's hard to sit there for a year and say, we need all this stuff, and then turn around come budget time and say, yeah, but we don't want your budget.
I was this close, and I still might do it because it's not that long ago, where it's kind of screen record the LTC and take the manager's monologue, you know, his statement about the budget, because I think it gives you a lot of insight into the manager, Tom Golden, the specific manager, right? One, it shows sort of his style, some of the stuff he's learned, the craft, the political craft from working in Boston, right? He was certainly trying to give props, right? Like it's where would I be without my friends, right? Like these great people that I work with. There was a lot of sugar in that, right? But I also kept thinking, like, is he giving credit to the council, or is he blaming the council for this?
I think it depends on how you view it.
Right. Yeah. If you think that
you can take that and turn it any way you want.
That's right. It's eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
And Tom was navigating that space of eye of the beholder, but he did it in such a way that any happy-go-lucky council would think that he was really being complimented.
I will say that when I do my budget at work, I've got one board member that there are certain things that I know irk them. And so before I present a budget, I talk to them about it. And I think I don't know if this happens, but I know if I was in the city, I would definitely be having some conversations with councilors about certain things to make sure to kind of head off or explain what was going on.
You're not naive enough to think that the manager doesn't meet individually with the counselors and kind of get there. What is a must and what they can
I have
do
no
without.
idea. I wouldn't be privy to that information.
I think it's pretty safe to assume that, you know, those conversations take place.
I hope,
You're not breaking quorum, but
I hope they do.
That's the job of the manager. Talk to each counselor one at a time.
Communication's key.
It varies from manager to manager, right? Like, we have long council meetings now because we have 11 councilors with a lot of motions. When Bernie Lynch was the city manager, we had long city council meetings because he didn't want to deal with phone calls and emails. When Kevin Murphy became the city manager, council meetings were 45 minutes long. Why? Did the business change suddenly? Or did the people that were beating Bernie over the head and neck, right, all of a sudden became very tame, and they had a friend in the corner office?
You also were voting with just one voting block. I mean, dealing with one voting block at the time, too. Like, I think the district representation changes the whole, like you said, it changes everything.
It changes everything.
And so do you think ordinarily a 9% tax increase on top of an assessment increase is suicide in an election year? I think any of these councils, Jack put together this board for our previous podcast. I just got to call it up there on the whiteboard. But, there are 3 very strong manager supporters, districts 1, 2, and 3, Dan Rourke, Corey Robinson, John Leahy are running unopposed.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that the manager's strongest supporters seem to
Not have any challenge.
be pretty safe. Who, other than on that list, and let's call that list up again, but who on that list runs a cut taxes campaign other than Eric Gitchier? If he even does that, does any other council there say that now we raise taxes too much in 2024?
Maybe.
Who does that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, of the incumbents, you talking?
Of the challengers. Which challenger runs on the we're taxing too much other than Eric Gitchier?
I don't know if Eric would, though. I think he's...
Exactly. I don't even think... And he's the biggest critic of this budget.
So you're saying there's a consensus of, it's reasonable to...
There's either a consensus or the people reading the room believe that Tom Golden is still strong enough that it's not wise to...
I think it's more about
going after him publicly.
I think everybody there would probably defend the 9% because it's like you said, we're playing catch up right now, right? I wouldn't want to see us 2 or 3 years in a row.
Nothing is more expensive than deferred maintenance at the end of.
And catching up with salaries, salaries were way behind.
I don't think the balance of challenges to unchallenged has got anything to do with the manager. I think it's got more to do with demographics than anything else under the new system.
God, I hope it's just not who the stupid mayor is.
T-ville, right? Like it's not that there's diversity in Pawtuckaville, right? I'm not trying to make it sound monochromatic, but it's definitely not the acre. The downtown, Wayne's pulling a challenger in part because, there's a group of people that feel underrepresented and they've got a candidate for it. I think that's the same thing with District 5 with Kim and Susie. I think, the Sakari Justin lineup, I think that's more just ideological between the factions of the Cambodian community. Paul Ratayem and Fru, I think that's, again, it's, they're vying to try to capitalize on shifts in demographics. It's, these are much more D4 through D7 because the Highlands is fairly at least upper middle class, right? Like the median income in the District 8 and District 1, District 3, very different than these other districts. So I think it's more demographics than the manager.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Did you catch Batch's comment, by the way, which was about a 15-minute
I was kind of focused on
our podcast.
I hope it's not about the mayor.
I hope it's not about the mayor. To me, that's...
I think it is, but...
Some of the names that have emerged in the last 2 weeks, to me, it's about the mayor.
I think a lot of the...
100%.
You look at the to me, it looks like there's a lot of stuff to do with that and the divide in the Cambodian community. I think, maybe.
I don't get it, because, there can only be one first, right? The cherry is popped. Like, does Vesna want to be the second Cambodian mayor, or is it really about putting your face up on the wall? right?
Or your back,
Or your
depending on the portrait.
I think it would have been. I think don't get me wrong. Vesna Noon would have been very proud to say he was the first Cambodian mayor in Lowell, but I think he's just wanted to be mayor. I think because if you look at his vote totals, he's transcended just the Southeast Asian community and the Cambodian community. Yeah. He's like Riddy before him. He's made inroads in Belvedere and Upper Highlands and everywhere, for that matter. Just look at his finished district, precinct by precinct. But so in fairness to him, I don't think it's about being the first Cambodian. I think he just wants to be mayor, and he's earned it to a large degree. If you look at those vote totals, I'm
going to gripe a little bit.
Nice.
About
I love when Jack.
A name for your gripe.
25 minutes
right?
in, and he's finally.
I love it.
Like this is going to seem like a Sakari thing, and it is a little bit of a Sakari thing, but it's not really a Sakari thing. But it is like this whole first Cambodian mayor. Like I've seen that, and I complimented Sakari's comms team, right? But for Christ's sakes, he's not Menino, right? He's not Giuliani. Like he's an appointed mayor, a selected mayor. 11 people picked him. All right. He's not the mayor like mayor. It's a different kind of mayor.
Still cool,
can I get an AM for?
I get what you're saying.
No way is getting picked by your pals. And we knew that thing. I was over election night, right? I was over at Cobblestones and the Corey team, right? Like there was a few of us, right? We were heading over to El Potros, and then Brady came over and was like, McCarran was like, "Hey, let's go over to the China Star. We're having a good time." I walked into the China Star and I was like, "Oh shit!"
Why?
Because I knew that was the Sakari Celebrate High Five Sakari for Mayor party. Because I knew you could just, when you saw the faces and you saw the alignments, you knew it was a done deal. And that was done long before the election. Mm-hmm. All right? Now, it's done.
What's wrong with that?
No, nothing. Whatever. It is what it is, right? He's not the first one to do it. He's not going to be the last one to do it. But to try to portray, like, the mayor, right? Which is why I kind of think, like, the luster is sort of off of it. But, if you look at Sakari's got tens of thousands of dollars in his OCPF. Where's he going? All right, the mayor. Like, come on. Can I get an amen for changing the title to president of the council and no longer putting portraits?
So you're saying we should have a mayor that's elected, that's at large?
Well, okay, if you want to go down Plan A, and Teddy and I have talked about this, I think that's in the future of the city. I think that is in the future of the city.
I think what you're seeing up here is some of this is to get that strong mayor, and so that you can have, because I think there's a section of the city that used to have a big block, and right now, if you get a strong mayor, Belvedere would have three votes in the mayor. That's 4, and then you can. I think they're trying to get back more votes, more power. I think they want to have a strong mayor because they've lost that block.
So Rita is a testament to the true strength of Belvedere. Rita comes in 4th or 5th in Belvedere in the old system. She comes in 1st or 2nd citywide because Rita collects votes in every pocket, the nooks and crannies of the city. So Belvedere can only flex so much, even in the new system. All right. So I don't know if that's the case. And Belvedere isn't what it used to be. We had this conversation earlier. There's been a migration, like some of the older Lowellians, there's people, we're getting expatriates from Somerville, from Cambridge, that are opting out of the high cost of living and coming into Lowell, right? You can still have a good Massachusetts paying job and not embarrass yourself by going up to New Hampshire. Right?
And the parking garage no longer just takes cash, so you can get the train into Boston in very little. I was so
you didn't even need a 6-figure sustainability officer to make that happen.
The app is awesome, by the way. The
app, okay, sorry, I keep going.
Who's the mayor if Vesna Noon isn't? We know Vesna wants to be mayor. We know that depending on how that election plays out, he could become the mayor.
Sakari would take it a second time.
Why wouldn't Sakari take it a second time?
I don't think he does.
Hasn't Rookie been there the longest without being mayor?
So I think you've got a Dan Rourke, or if she truly is running her last term, decides to go out as
that'd be kind of nice.
on top. Rita Mercier.
You know what I think they should do is just
That becomes interesting.
they should just get a big wheel and just spin it for the mayor. That would be awesome.
Ooh, and the size of your portion of that wheel depends on your vote total.
Yeah, that'd be
Like the NBA draft lottery.
Yeah, that'd be great if we could bet on it.
Balls.
Yeah,
You know,
dude, it'd be fun. It'd be a whole event.
How about this? Add the school committee to the vote.
Oh, well, can we just get rid of the school committee? Can we just have an
we-
appointed school
exactly.
committee?
I want to eliminate it, give it less responsibility, not more.
I mean, half the
or you could have
It's an embarrassment.
The
you
mayor-
could have a
okay.
steering committee of representatives from the city that at random that choose the
Well,
mayor.
that just means UMass Lowell.
all the partners,
interview.
CTI.
Interview like the superintendent. You could
No.
like the city manager. You could
just
do
a
an
big
interview.
wheel. Phew.
Why? But look, the mayor is the chair of the school committee. Why does the mayor get jammed down the school committee's throat?
Well, I think we should just get rid of the school committee.
Well, he's the chair of the school committee, as I understand it, because he's the council's voice on the school committee.
You need a school committee.
But why
It's
not
such a
make the why
huge
not
Have it
let
appointed.
the-
school system?
why
Appointed.
not let the school committee chair their committee and just put him down, put the mayor or her as this on the floor?
It's just the only people that vote for school committee are teachers, anyways. It's just whoever they want to
That
have
is
pick
so
their
not,
boss.
That's not true.
You know, it's funny.
I think just appoint it.
Normally, I'd be
Who would
like,
appoint it?
I'd be like, shame on you guys for just being so glib and immature about it. But I literally, in the last episode, was just like, I don't even watch that thing. But I do think it's
If we all watch the school committee on a regular basis, we'd probably be embarrassed. This last 6-7 months has been an embarrassment, just from the procedural component to the whole debacle that was the prior solicitor and how she was just so unprepared for the job and to run a meeting, and the whole we got to get Joel Boyd, we got to defend Joel Boyd. It's like, and I still want this school committee. I just want somebody in the school committee to ask a superintendent, any superintendent, can you folks, anybody on the school committee, can you please ask Liam Skinner when he comes in, how are the kids performing in school? Are the kids learning? Can they read the diploma that we hand them every June? Somebody just asked those questions on the school committee. Nope. It's all about who got what job, who did the superintendent appoint, who does the superintendent like and not like, who is so-and-so sleeping with, who is so-and-so not sleeping with, who is...
This could be a
nobody
could be a
ever
Bravo.
cares.
This could be like
it could be a Bravo.
Vanderpool public school rules.
Look at Boston, look at Chicago, look at New York, look at
LPS
Baltimore,
rules.
look at every major city in America, and we're finding out nobody can read or write or do basic math. Do we think it's different in Lowell?
Wasn't he the head of schools before? Was he the guy that was head of schools?
No, that was.
Oh, sorry, there's someone else.
Joel Skinner?
Who's the guy that was?
Not
was head of
not
schools? Wasn't there someone that wasn't it him?
he's I have to find his story here. Look at
I just want.
it popped up on my computer screen as we're speaking. He
I just
is
want the school-
current chief of schools.
Chief of schools.
Yeah,
thank
he
you.
evaluates.
Call him
So he
Joel
should
Skinner.
know- Joel Boyd.
Joel Boyd, Liam Skinner, Joel Skinner.
So he would be a great person to ask those questions to, because I don't know what the chief of schools do, but I would assume that they would know that.
They deal with the
information.
principals.
Shouldn't the school committee be asking them before they want to fire a superintendent? Shouldn't they want to know these questions?
I just hope.
Know the answers to these questions?
I just want them. I mean, I just hope they Google these people, because apparently they don't know how to Google. When you look back at,
Well, that was the solicitor.
I mean, just
little Facebook stalking. That could have
Don't feel bad.
20
Apparently, the newspaper of record doesn't know how to Google their own archives either before they
God.
write sob stories about drug dealers in wheelchairs.
they're just inviting Turtle Boy.
Anyway, to bring it back to the budget discussion, I am very excited about this budget, and not just because it has a sustainability department, which I'm very excited about, but it's the city council, I think, and Tom Golden will do a good job, and it'll be exciting to see.
Have you seen your new tax bill yet where you are?
No, I haven't.
Okay, let's see if you're excited when you see your tax bill.
I mean,
I won't be, but you know what? I'll be excited when I see good things happening in this city as a result of the increase.
you can measure the budget throughout the year based on the transfers and stuff, and what's the spending looking like. And you got to remember too, like, I know there's like 100 open positions, but you got to budget for that stuff. You can't just.
So-
if you don't see good things, though, will you say shit if you have a mouthful? Lowell doesn't say shit if it has a mouthful.
I will.
I feel like people say.
I would have. I'll tell you what. I would have said shit after 5.5% increase if I didn't see anything. I'm seeing some changes
Yeah.
in like the day-to-day street operations. Not enough, but I'm seeing some changes.
I mean, it takes time.
And I'm also seeing a will, and this is more the council than the manager, but I'm seeing a willingness to fight for certain quality of life issues for the residents as opposed to the nonprofit industrial complex, which we never saw before. And to me, that's, if you want to talk about the long-term benefit of the city, the long game, I think this battle going on right now, this is our transition to homelessness.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, in the dog park, which again, we're recording this on June 26th, earlier this morning, the city finally took down the dog park in Centerville that became a homeless encampment. Much to the chagrin of a lot of protesters. They waltzed out to City Hall and staged a protest. They tried to show up on the site and repel any efforts and whatnot. I get asked the question, what the F are these people thinking? What goes through their minds?
I can't believe they weren't. I can't believe they weren't upset that there was a propane refilling station there.
So you've got a homeless encampment, which just had 2 guns. Remember when nobody likes guns, right? Lowell, all the liberals, all the Democrats in Lowell,
you need them to protect
the Marxists in Solidarity, Lowell and Lama, none of them like guns. They want to take law-abiding citizens' guns away.
I think we can all agree that unregistered I think liberal or not, you don't
really
want that.
No,
really? So they don't want this dog park encampment taken down, even though we found a fentanyl dealer in there. Another fentanyl dealer who's wanted on warrants. This is what I mean about, do a little Google search, Lowell Sun, before you write a sob story about a family. And there's people who are trying to stop it from being torn down. Because they think, why?
I think if you find something like that in a homeless encampment, it should be shut. Like that's a case where like one rotten apple spoils the bunch. Like I think, and then it kind of leads to like maybe some self-policing of these homeless encampments so they don't allow this to happen.
I got news for you. That is these encampments, every single one of them.
I don't think it's fair to say every single one. No, you can't say every single one because of one.
Maybe not guns. That's who's living in these encampments.
I don't think that's a fair blanket statement.
There is nobody living in these encampments who could live in a place with a roof over their head that they would be placed in. And the reason they're not is because of drug use and violence.
I don't agree with that.
Jack's looking at me. Here we go. I think I might have gotten.
I think he's gonna have a gripe. We need to think. I'm gonna think of a name for your gripe. It's gonna be like a. I don't think so, honey.
I'm kind of in the middle on this. I don't agree with everything that you're saying. That it's one size fits all for the encampments. I've heard stories. I haven't gone and interviewed the folks. I've talked to activists. So I can't say for sure. But it's a symptom of a disease. I think part of the motivation of the activists that are allies to the homeless, I think it's kind of like when a puppy does a doo-doo on the kitchen floor. You go stick the puppy's nose in it. They want us to stick our noses in it because we're doing so well in our society. Not us personally, but us personally and the society at large. The homeless are an indication that we're not doing it as best we could. And they like to point that out. But there's a thing in the military we call mission creep, right? Where you say you're going to go out doing something else, but you get entangled and you start doing stuff beyond your original mission, right? We saw that in Iraq. Well, I think the allies, it's kind of like a crime creep. They're okay with the homeless stealing propane tanks and doing sort of petty criminality for
catalytic converters, breaking into homes.
Yeah, so now you're creeping it, right? And I don't necessarily know where. I know activists, there's a certain point where they would draw a line, right? So maybe take a propane tank, maybe steal some change out of somebody's console, but stealing a catalytic converter or breaking into someone's home, they might draw the line. But others might not. Because they think,
They blame everybody else.
Yeah.
They're not drawing the line at guns with serial numbers rubbed up. You think they're concerned that they broke into somebody else's house?
Because they're fundamentalists. They're extremists. They're
nuts. Can we just say it? They're nuts. They're political activists who have been worked into a lather and have just lost their way.
There's not a lot of
community engagement officers paid simply to get out the vote, and then they pretend that as they're getting out the vote, they pretend that they give a shit about homeless people.
I just disagree with that blanket statement. I don't think you can just label them. I think some people are trying to better understand the root causes of the issues, and I don't think that's something to be blamed.
But we all know the root causes of the issue. The solution is the challenge, though. There is no solution for somebody who doesn't want to get help. Whether they're able to get help, there are people in addiction who can't get help, right? There are people with mental illness who can't get help. Some do, some don't.
With trauma.
But what do you do with these people, though?
You let them not pay their rent, and you use vacant buildings. That's some of their solutions.
Are we going to confine them? Are we going to confine them somewhere for their own safety? We tried that, right? That used to be the way we dealt with things.
Well, it was abused. I think. I mean, you had a woman that talked smart alecky with her husband, and they said that she was crazy, right? Because she didn't conform to the norms. But I think we have a better understanding of brain chemistry than we did back in the day. You're talking about forced sectioning?
Yeah, right? Well, look, the solution is not to let people live in feces, needles, surrounded by guns, knives, We've had 2 stabbings over the last couple of months. Who knows what crimes those guns have been used in or were going to be used in.
They're a danger to the residents.
You can't allow this. They're a danger to themselves and a danger to their residents.
Yeah.
So we've got to revisit this confinement thing. I'm sounding like Casey Crane, but she's got a point with this. We've got to revisit it in a way where we do away with the abuses that you talked about, Jack, where people were being confined for other reasons.
If a person under duress climbs up on top of a bridge and is about to throw themselves down into the rocks of the Merrimack River, right? The police are fully empowered to snatch them up, the firefighters, and bring them down for evaluation, right? But that's like a acute circumstance, right? Someone's jumping off of a bridge. We're supposed to sit as someone kills themselves, injection by injection by injection, and not do anything about it, right? Now, I'm wary of giving the state too much power, all right? You think you're the small government guy. I'm wary of those things, right? But I do not believe, like, one of the things I've called the encampments basically salacious safe injection sites, like unregulated safe injection sites. Mm-hmm. That's what they are. They're injection dens.
Shooting galleries.
Right? Shooting galleries. Mm-hmm. Now, not every encampment is in that situation, but there's enough where you can't turn a blind eye to it. And if you do, you're just sanctioning people committing suicide over a period of time in hope. It's kind of like they're dancing along the bridge, and you're hoping, like, they won't fall off or jump off. They'll come back down. All right. Yeah. But they don't want any firefighters around. Right? They don't want any police officers around. We're all supposed to just stand there and watch them dance along the top of the bridge and let them just let them be while they steal our stuff, while they break into our stuff, while they harass our kids going to school begging for money. All right. Yeah. While they assault our businesses with fecal matter and trash and debris, while they depress the experience of our residents,
the livability,
and our visitors.
As we're paying more taxes
and yet,
paying more to live here.
There are these paid political action committees that run around as homeless advocates that will defend them. They not only want you to stand around and watch it, they will defend their right to continue with this behavior.
Well, you can't even, if you disagree with any of their platform, you're labeled, as
inhumane or something like that.
Yeah, and there's a range. Like there's no, like what Jack just said. I think a lot of people probably agree with. That's probably what a lot of people feel. But if you're, one of these radical folks, they would probably call you inhumane or a fascist pig or whatever. Like they're not. They won't listen to anybody else. They're unreasonable. These activists. I don't think they want a solution. I think they're enjoying the being able to protest and be whatever. It plays into their long game.
Yeah, because it plays into that political activism.
I think there's a
with
spectrum,
like-minded people.
Just like there's a spectrum of the people living in the encampments and a spectrum of the solutions and a spectrum of the theories and thoughts, there's a spectrum to the kinds of political, the kinds of activists that are different. Like some are probably agree with a lot of what Jack just said, and some are probably a little bit more fundamentalist side thing.
Teddy is definitely trying to tiptoe around the idea that there's some sort of shadow backing behind some of this effort, right? Like, he hasn't said George Soros or whatever, like he's like, he wants to, and he's like, Jack will say it for me, right?
I wasn't even thinking so.
I don't
know. When you were talking about Marxists, you were talking about like, and then you were talking about they don't even know what, like, who they're, like Kaiser Soze, they don't even know who they're working for.
When you want to destroy a system, when you want to destroy a society, how do you do it?
Well, now you sound like me.
You plunge it into chaos.
Right.
Look at the Joker in Batman, right?
Yeah.
But there are people who are seeking a bigger political end, and they've infiltrated the nonprofit world. They've been funded, and anything with a change or a move on or any kind of .org has now gone away from, because if all this effort and all these community engagement officers concentrated on getting people who need a home into a home and getting help for people who don't know enough or can't help themselves, getting some kind of change, we could do that.
No.
Instead, there's money to be made.
No, so you are actually trying to blame sort of like the cabal of the socialists and the Marxists pushing chaos in our culture, when really more than likely what it is the capitalists that are parading themselves as not-for-profits, all right, that are pretending to solve problems, but they're really not trying to solve the problem. Or that there's just so many gaps between the disparate solutions, right, that anybody that comes in doesn't, they like, I wrote an email based on an experience, whatever, it's hard to set up, but there's gaps, okay? You can see somebody come in, they get picked up by the cops, they get brought over, they get sectioned, they get, they have, and then, they get sectioned, right? So they get committed, so to speak, right? And they can be tuned up, and there's a thing they call titration with chemicals, right? And they can come out fine. But if they don't have the family unit behind them, if they don't have some sort of caseworker that's not completely exhausted and spent from case after case after case.
You need support.
All right, you need support, because the people that, especially in mental health, the people, they don't always make, I'm fine now. When they're all titrated up, they think they're healed, right? And they sometimes don't stay on the program. And if they don't have people behind them to remind them and keep them in that place where they have to stay in the program of their own care, they just end up right back at the beginning of the loop. It's like a game of chutes and ladders. And people with good families, good support systems, they take ladders. But the people that don't, the system, the profiting system, gives them a ladder and then shoot down to the bottom. Maybe they go up a couple of layers, but
so who's
down
profiting?
to the bottom.
Who's profiting off this homelessness issue? Because we could argue it's the developers and the contractors who are going to build this affordable housing. But who are we kidding? You can't build affordable housing anymore. And even if you did,
What do you mean you can't build affordable housing anymore?
what's affordable? Build something in Massachusetts. Tell me it's affordable.
Yeah, market rate isn't, or the sub.
Build something in Lowell in any already populated
It's
city.
subsidized.
It's impossible.
It has to be subsidized.
Okay. So you build something that's, affordable, subsidized by somebody, not affordable to the taxpayers. We're going to subsidize it, right? But
It's affordable to the taxpayer.
But now let's say we take all these people from the dog park and we put them into this subsidized affordable housing. Mm-hmm. How long before they were all arrested or out of there? Because
but whoever built the housing has already cashed the checks and moved on. The whole Mills to Martinis thing is just that, but a couple of classes, a couple of tens of thousands, just add more zeros to it.
Oh yeah, I mean the subletting and
Martinis,
I saw some of those buildings go way downhill, especially when they started filling up with
Section 8.
Yeah.
So they're not homeless, but I know people that have moved in when they bought a condo thinking they were moving into the next mecca of art, and they're living next to people that don't give a rat's ass about, right? Like, because They're just disengaged from being part of a community, like whatever. They don't have the capacity to do it. But somebody pays their rent, and the landlords don't care. The reason why we don't want to do mini villages, like for the homeless, the TPs or whatever you want to call them, is who's going to make any money off of that?
Right. There's no money in Ertz.
There's no money in.
Of course, there's money in that.
No, there might be money in.
Because all these things come with social services.
They should.
And there's a lot of community engagement officers who be.
What's the alternative?
Push them in the river? Is that where we're going with this?
I'm going to tell you there is no solution, except I don't want them here.
That is not a solution. That is a very irresponsible.
Let somebody else.
Push them in the rivers. Basically.
You're always going to have some of it, though. You're not going to get rid of it completely.
No, we're pushing them in the river, just not in Lowell. Go find a new location. I prefer they go to some of the lily white wealthy suburbs.
They come from there. They're not going there.
Why, if they come from there, all the more reason to build the affordable housing.
Well, there is. I mean, if you think about it,
do this once every 6 months.
But if you think about it, though, it is a lot of the urban areas do get saddled with this, and the towns they skate by with nothing.
Yeah.
Like there's no.
When you get
that's a
70
problem.
cents on the dollar for your high school, you shut up and take it. Or
Well, that's true.
yeah.
So we should get money from Carlisle.
No, you should try those.
There isn't enough money to deal with this because again, the problems of mental illness and addiction don't get fixed.
But what are those towns doing?
You can work on them as Jackson, you dedicated casework, but it's a lifelong struggle.
Of course it is.
And with the people that are at the level that they're living in feces and needles and whatnot, it's not fixable.
Well, the other thing too, like this fentanyl thing, man. Like I've said it before, but what a bad idea. Like if I'm a drug dealer, I'd much rather be giving out pure heroin than killing my clients. Like it's kind of a bad long-term investment.
Well, I
know it's a lot cheaper, but like the supply of fentanyl is a real, like, I don't know how you stop that, but
They're
it's
selling it now in pharmacies in Mexico.
Yeah, it's
out of the pharmacy.
It's there's got to be something done about that. And
So I know a few drug dealers. Like I know people that people say they don't know, right? But one of the
That's an interesting.
one of the things that you do in branding is you kill a few motherfuckers because everybody wants to buy that shit.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, really?
Especially with Narcan. You thought like Narcan was going to solve the problem? Narcan makes the problem worse.
No, just yeah.
Now they run around with a pocket full of get out of dead free cards.
Yeah.
All right.
With a pocket full of free needles that are clean. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I've tried to read. I'm trying to find something that shows do safe injection sites. They definitely save like people from getting AIDS and all that. But my question is, does it promote drug use? And there's really not a lot of research on it.
It enables it. You don't need to do research. That's
no, but it's good to see at least.
It enables it.
I say one of the ways an easy way to sort of siphon this problem is limit the amount of painkillers that big pharmaceutical company or that doctors are able to prescribe. Like, why are you getting a bottle full of Oxycontin for getting a
They're still giving that stuff out.
I don't know if that's happening anymore.
It is. I was looking up the sales of what do you call it? Opioid based pain
They tell them to
medicine.
the old people, they keep Nana drugged up, right? Doped up. And then when you start to pull her back and she starts going, you think she's just because she's old? No, because she's got
withdrawal.
Withdrawal.
Yeah, I mean, they should never even.
Like an easy fix. Like that's a very easy fix with a policy that would stop a lot of the root causes.
End of life care only for the.
Or continue.
I gotta stop doing that, by the way.
What?
The Trump thing.
You look like Trump, but
I know. I did it before, and I regretted it. And then I was like, I don't know. I get so animated, right? Like I feel it. I live in their space. Yeah. Nana is definitely sketching out.
You're watching the Pod Squad with Teddy Panos. You're on Inside Lowell. Jack Mitchell, Mikaela Hondros-McCarthy, Mike Batchagalupo, a.k.a. Batch, left to right. This is why we only do it once every 6 months.
That was very dark.
Because we delve. So homeless is still, I can't believe after we did an hour and a half live, homelessness issue and multiple podcasts on this, that we're talking about it again. But, the situation got inflamed because we're getting close to election time. And it's time to get those voters registered. These again, community outreach officers, they need this.
But the whole debate or whatever, the conversation has gotten a little more nuanced. I mean, there is a difference now between like homeless, unhoused. Now we talk about the vagrants versus people that are addicted to drugs, the family. Like I think in the last year or 6 months,
because this city council had the balls to stand up to the nonprofits for the first time,
and they talked about it, and they broke it down,
and they basically told you, no, we're not talking about a battered woman who left her husband with her kids so she could survive. We're talking about a guy wiping guns off, wiping serial numbers off guns. This is what we're talking about here.
District representation has been so awesome.
I think so too.
It really is. It's great. It really is.
All right, we tied it all back. Another story that we found out late last night, early this morning. Congresswoman Trahan, Senators Markey and Warren, and City Manager Tom Golden triumphantly announced the $21.4 million. I had that story also on InsideLowell earlier. I know, and I forget. It's been a long day, Mitchell. Here, let me.
It's part of that bipartisan infrastructure.
$21.4 million in funding for bridges. Yeah. I got all excited thinking that a lot of it was going to the Rourke Bridge, and we might be able to save money. It's actually for a bunch of smaller bridges that. Including the one over the. We're not talking about a bridge over the Merrimack River. We're talking about bridges over canals.
Yeah.
$21.4 million for 4 bridges.
So it's going to be
again. You wonder why you can't have affordable anything. This is the cost of doing business now.
I wonder how much
in Massachusetts and elsewhere.
I wonder how much the Army Corps of Engineers could, how much it would cost for them to build a bridge real fast.
As much crap as the Rourke Bridge gets, for 40 years, we got a bridge over the river.
That was the safest bridge in Lowell until they built the new one.
Build a bunch of those, just replace them every 30 years.
You save.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the best can ever kick down the road.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
Until something bad happens.
No, but it's
nothing bad has happened.
Up until they built the new one on which one was it? The Mammoth Road Bridge or whatever. Like up until that one was built, it was the safest bridge in the city. Of course, that's not saying much. That's like me and Teddy being the skinniest one between the bills. But it's just kind of like it lasted for 40 years. It's been a great bargain.
So these are the bridges that are going to be repaired for $21.4 million. Broadway Street Bridge over the West Canal.
Wait, they just built that one?
No, this is the one closer to the Greek school in Machaerus, I believe.
Okay.
Market Street Bridge over Merrimack Canal. That's the one between the Athenian Corner and Hafner's.
Oh, they're right on Red Bridge.
Yep. Lawrence Street Bridge over River Meadow Brook. Not River, Brook.
I don't know where that is.
And the Swamp Locks pedestrian bridge over the lower Pawtucket Canal. So you got what? 1 40-yard Tom Brady pass
Well, what's
to Julian Edelman worth of bridges that are being repaired for. What's the mileage of those bridges?
That's what I want.
0.1?
Oh, how many years are we talking? Are these 100-year bridges?
The one on Market Street's barely 10 yards long over that canal.
How old is it? How long do they last? Right?
Folks, we got to find a way to make this a little bit more affordable, don't we? We have a city of about 100 bridges over canals.
I'm sure they can do it for the money. I'm just concerned it's going to take them 5 years.
Yeah, that's
true.
Valid.
I mean,
concern.
That's how long we celebrated the opening of the Central Street Bridge. Yeah. Again, that's another 20 yards long max.
I mean, because you got to remember, it's going to take.
We're going to Sahel in a handbasket.
When you build a bridge, you want it to last, so you don't have to close it. So hopefully, these are like 80-year bridges. I don't know what the average life of a bridge is, but
you got to get all the utilities moved. You got the design. Oh my God, it's going to be a wreck.
It's going to be great. We're going to have 4 new bridges, and this is amazing.
Jack can't talk because he.
Oh, that's right.
There's a conflict of interest with him, and we don't want to get him in trouble.
Can't they make them like at the Vogue shop prefab? And I could probably fit them in the back of my pickup truck. They're not that long.
Make a bunch of mini Rourke bridges for these little areas for like 1.4 million as opposed to 21.4.
Can we just knock down a Dunkin' Donuts and steal some girders? I mean, it can't be that long.
You know what? If everyone drove smaller cars or bicycles, we wouldn't need all these crazy heavy.
It's all these damn electric cars with their 1,000-pound batteries.
Oh yeah, the
big. God.
That's what's
Yeah, totally.
Which are they gonna? Please tell me they're not going to do them all at once, are they?
No, I would hope. I don't know.
The one that's those are all bridges I use a lot. This is gonna suck.
You know, if you're scale up, you kind of want to do them all at once. You save some money by
Really? Think they would?
Well, all the machine, you probably have like one of the same machines goes from one to
That will never happen. They'll just let it sit in the corner.
I was doing, that's, you know.
The good news now, though, Batch, is that they will be just as safe and, convenient for the bicyclists and the walkers.
Oh, they're gonna put them down to one lane, and
They have any new span of road you build in Massachusetts has to take pedestrians and bicycles into account. So you'll have like a 10-yard bike lane that will then disappear into the parked cars on Market Street.
So we'll create more traffic and more emissions.
Yeah, the turn lane going out of downtown onto Dutton will probably
How will that
disappear.
create more traffic?
Because they're going to have less lanes. So you're going to have a big backup of cars idling.
You're going to lose that turn lane.
Because then they're going to somebody will have to actually fix the lights, which will take another 10 years. So it's just going to be a big backup.
But the good news is we
You
have a
get a
six-figure sustainability officer to oversee.
No, it's not for one person.
Wait, you know what,
It's
though?
for multiple people in the department.
It is good that they got the money, though. At least it's coming from, the feds. Like, that's a good get for them.
Let's bring Jack back in. Should it have been under DPD or DPW? Can you believe that was a battle?
Department?
Yeah, the sustainability position. It was
I've
a legitimate debate about
heard both sides of it. So I couldn't pick. I mean,
does it really matter?
Yes, it
the
matters.
actual advocates will say that it needs to be its own separate department. So like I ran into Jay Mason in the hall and he started to give me the whole sis boom ba, and I was like, "Hey, baby, chill."
What, a department of one?
So you're versed on this, Mikaela. So what's the argument for putting it under DPD, Department of Planning and Development, versus DPW, or what you think it should be its own department?
Well, I think eventually it should be its own department. It should be a standalone department. But I do believe in this. I think Manager Golden had a good idea in putting it in DPW because these are where a lot of the day-to-day decisions will get made. Like HVAC is building decarbonization, like temperature control, being efficient with how we're using our energy in these huge buildings, including the school department. That's a lot of that stuff is DPW. So if you're working,
are we going to tell the teachers in the new high school that they can't set the thermostat above and below a certain level
you can
in their brand new school after dealing for like 30 years of not having heat and air conditioning?
When no one's in the building, you want to make sure that you can control the temperature from somewhere. Like these are just
they do that
technological advances.
I thought they did that by flooding the basement.
Are we any closer to having that joint facilities department that gets here in Robinson are all about for the first 6 months of this council, and then it kind of.
Oh, good question. Yeah, that
was a good idea. I like that.
We didn't hear that during the budget.
Well,
I wonder what happened to that.
I don't think the chair of the facilities subcommittee is John Leahy.
Oh, that's his.
No, I don't think he's a fan of the idea. He has friends inside of that are currently working in these positions, and they don't like it. So I don't think it's going very far.
That's just one vote, though. Who
else is on there? I mean, I would think.
I can't tell you, but Gettier made a point before he was everybody's favorite person to hate. It was that
I love Gettier. I think it's great having
we're building basically the Starship Enterprise over there in the high school, and we're going to turn it over to the Keystone Cops, right? Like, sorry guys, if this is you, I don't know who you are.
If there's going to be the HVAC's never going to go in. They can't afford that. That's the first thing.
They have HVAC systems.
There's tons of grants for that.
And I'm just joking.
You can run machinery off of cell phones these days.
Yeah.
My sprinkler system at my McMansion in the country where I summer.
You have a sprinkler system?
Yeah, which I run.
When did you become bougie?
It's such a great tool for cutting emissions and saving tons of money. And so I think it's going to be great having a department that thinks that way. You're putting brand new boilers and a lot of these that cost millions of dollars. So to have a department that is focused on sustainability with these long-term decisions that are going to get made.
Can they repair? Can they repair them? Can they clean the filter? Is the sustainability department going to clean the filters every so months?
No, but they can
They're going to work with the.
Are they going to change the belts on them?
No, but they'll make decisions on what's purchased to make sure that it's
maybe I mean, they could, if they're in
theory.
DPW, they might be that much closer to.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. I get what they're doing. I think it's a good idea.
And the nature of Department of Planning Development, like they're already like planning and development, they're already kind of going to be working, I think, with the sustainability department when you are thinking ahead for these long-term design decisions and things like that. So I think it's a good move to put it to like embed it within DPW.
Yeah, and DPD's got a lot of no right on red signs to put
I
on.
would eliminate the whole bleeping thing. You won't even notice it gone. You won't even notice it gone.
I'm very excited. I'm so like I'm pumped about this.
But I think it opens you up for more funding too, right? I would think.
Huge. Like the school block.
Sure, the money's just gonna pour it.
You watch. I can't wait to sit here 6 months from now and talk about it.
We're gonna get solar panels on the high school finally.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah, I think that's happening.
I can't wait till they ruin the roof.
I don't think we're owning them, which is a big gripe of mine.
What's that going to mean for the sustainability of the roof?
Nothing. They come in once a year and maintain them. It's not that.
Means we're going to
expensive.
save tons of money on our energy bills, which is a huge line item on our budget.
Sure, we will.
Listen, when we build a new high school in 30 years, by the time in 30 years, we won't have to worry about all this.
How much? So we used to 30 years ago. We had 0% renewable energy, right? Maybe 1%.
30 years ago, like as a state, as
a society, right? What do we use now? Like 15, 20% renewables?
22 in Massachusetts.
22%. Have our electric bills gone down with our 22% affordable?
Have they gone up as much as they would have?
I bet you they've gone up more.
There are extenuating. The Ukraine war is a huge.
That was okay. That was the last
circumstance.
year. Did the electric bill go down from 2015 to 2020?
I think it will. As we start producing, so we're already using less energy on peak demand days than we would have because of all the behind the meter solar that's being produced. So that saves us a lot of money on our electricity bills, period. Because we're not using the like really expensive peaker plants. It's true.
You could say we've destabilized the Middle East for the last 30 years.
There's been a lot of bad decisions. Like under the Obama administration, we started going down certain roads, and then Trump clawed us back towards coal and oil. And now we're sort of like going. So we've been kind of oscillating between making decisions. But
overall, we've increased our green energy usage over the last 30 years.
We've also added,
and our electric bills haven't gone down.
We've also added like 60 or 70 million people. I mean, overpopulation is really the core of everything, but we won't get into that.
And devices. I mean, I just think like you're taking an easy pot shot, but you don't have really the data. Like if you could get like a think tank to sort of like track out where our economy would be if we had stayed with oil, or even CFCs, right? Like
keeping all things equal, which is
it
very
would be
hard.
Humming along much better.
I mean, just conceptually though, Teddy, honestly, if we're producing more energy, putting more energy onto the grid.
You're not. Because
if the solar panels did not exist,
here's the problem, Mikaela.
Would we produce less energy?
Here's the problem. You're producing less of the more reliable energy sources on this wish of green energy. That's the problem. You're taking nuclear and coal plants offline, so your supply hasn't increased. Your supply of green energy has increased,
yes,
but you've shut down every nuclear plant in New England.
That's not true.
You've shut down coal plants. Sure, they're all gone. They're all going to be. The last one will be gone that'll be gone in what year? It's slated to be.
What, Seabrook?
We'll build more in the future.
Yeah. We're taking them offline so that we can build them again to meet the energy demand that the new forms of energy can't meet. Same way the Germans and the Europeans are firing up coal plants again and tearing down windmills to build new coal plants because they can't meet their supply. Do we really want to go down this route? People, I know you, three of you look at me and everybody looks at, the triple L accounts all look at me as, being being nuts. But I'm telling you, just research what's happening in Europe with their energy grid. It's a cautionary tale for America, and yet we continue to
Europe's energy
go down
prices
this
would
path.
be a lot more expensive if they did not have the renewable energy.
So not true.
Well, we disagree.
They shut down all their reliable things.
What's wrong with having the more energy sources you create a more competitive market, and it'll drive the price down.
Exactly. So create new energy sources. Don't take away the ones that
a gradual transition.
You have reliable.
But you gotta
let them all in play. Let them all be in play.
It's a gradual transition.
The green people like Mikaela will ensure that the green forms of energy will will survive. Why this need to take away reliable energy?
It's a gradual shift.
Yeah,
It's not a gradual shift.
Do you hear the rhetoric?
Yeah, do you?
Renewable energy, reliable energy. It's a word trick that he's doing.
It's the truth.
Reliable energy.
It's the truth. Reliable energy. Renewable energy is not reliable.
No. I fought a war for reliable energy.
But it's there. Well,
Didn't they just blow up a fuel tank?
You're going to fight the same wars. Your grandkids are going to fight the wars over lithium and cobalt.
No, it's gonna be over water.
So
That's gonna be over.
Clean water.
you think
The water that we used to frack,
with a
that water?
joystick.
Yeah.
That water?
Do you think
Okay.
Afghanistan was only about oil?
No, it was about.
Afghanistan has one of the largest
Yeah.
cobalt
Give it to the Chinese.
deposits on
Give
the
it to the
planet.
Chinese.
Exactly. They're smart. The Chinese are
But we should
buying it
keep-
all, and they're continuing to create fossil fuels. So pretty soon, when the Chinese own all the energy on the planet and all the battery making materials, who's going to be dependent
But
on
we
the
should
Chinese?
keep fracking so that your kids don't have any more water to drink. We should keep fracking.
My kids are drinking water just fine with all the fracking.
Well, you're
going
worried
on.
about his kids fighting wars about cobalt, and your kids aren't going to have any water to drink.
I keep hearing this fracking thing.
Why did we get into this? Right.
Yeah, why? Yeah, why?
Because you insist on having me part of the pod squad.
I thought we fought Afghanistan to keep the poppy flow going.
That's so exactly.
And the full circle.
So that the Lowell nonprofits could advocate for
you
people.
put it all
who need
together.
to advocate for. It all comes
The
back.
Kami Lamas are behind it.
An hour, 10 minutes in. I swear we're not going more than an hour and a half. So I want to wrap up with two brilliant masterpieces by Batch of articles on Inside Lowell. If you've missed them, I advise you get to Inside Lowell. Find the Batch tab, and one of them was on people complaining about not getting free parking for a graduation at the science.
Oh, yeah, that was hilarious.
That was a lot of.
You ticked off about 50,000 people saw that on Facebook, which was brilliant. The other one, the most recent one, was you kind of well, actually, no, there was three of them now. You also talked about the people complaining about the fireworks.
Yeah, and the barking dogs.
The barking dogs. And then most recently, you got upset that they want to kill your jet ski canals dream before it's even brought up in a city council.
I know. One of the city councilors had this crazy idea of using the canals for hydropower.
See, it all comes back to sustainability.
I'm like, I think we're already doing that,
And we sold them.
Yeah, now we're going to use the next motion. That was a good one. It's going to be using the canals to power looms to make to refine cotton. It's going to be great, but it kills the jet skis on the canal. I mean, one of the reasons those bridges cost so much is they're all going to be drawbridges. So
For the jet skis?
For the jet skis, yeah, that's the dream.
Batch has been floating the jet skis.
I
in the
know,
canal
I know.
thing for
That was
years now.
That was Callie's idea too. That was both of our brainstorms one night. To utilize the canals for recreation. Actually, it'd be nice to utilize the canals for recreation.
Well, so listen, the city keeps talking about we need to take advantage of our waterways, right? They always point to Venice, but we're not Venice. But
yeah, we're not thinking.
Providence, Rhode Island,
Not yet.
Haverhill takes advantage of their waterfront. Lots of communities take advantage of their waterfront. Lowell has failed miserably at doing it.
Yeah.
Other than refurbishing mills and making housing out of them.
Yeah, I mean, you have a whole river. There's not one restaurant in Lowell
along the river, right?
Yeah.
We tried. There was one out on the boulevard.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We had one up on the boulevard.
Oh yeah, what was the name? Windows. Yeah.
Windows.
It was Gary's Typicals right
Gary's
on.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's still there.
Is it still Gary's?
They have the backyard there, like by the road. It's really
and
nice.
it's Blue Tele on the canal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Right,
Backpage
downtown.
used to be on.
But it's never really spurred like the whole. Can we just
Right.
pick one canal and just like
Canal.
let's just develop that?
You go
Let's
to-
I
find
love
one,
that idea.
Develop one of them, and then worry about all the other
I
stuff.
mean, Lawrence and Nashua have stuff. Well, all right, Lawrence is not on the. I mean, Nashua's not on the Merrimack, but the Lawrence has that
Nashua has
right
the
on it.
Merrimack.
Yeah, and Haverhill has awesome places
Yes.
on the river.
Yeah, I
With,
don't know why we
back
didn't.
porches.
Why we don't do it here?
Well, do we not own? We don't own like the boulevard, right? That's a state that owns.
Yes.
the
I wouldn't
boulevard,
want
so we
that
couldn't
developed, but you could certainly do something behind, like by the Riverwalk. You could put some kind of development back there where you could have, restaurants and stuff.
Totally.
I think all the land is gone. I think it's all been used.
What about the section from what is that? Pawtucket, right by the ice cream place.
Oh, yeah.
And then go along until you get to the
There's homeless
Francis
camps back
Gate.
there. You can't put anything down there.
to Francis Gate.
Yeah, there's room out there. It'd be
Or
great.
between Market Street and Father Morissette, that canal that runs through the
Yeah. You know what'd be
Well, that's
great
the high
behind,
school. That's
yeah.
we're talking about with the high school.
no, the one further towards North Campus.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
That's a nice walkway. It's such a nice walkway.
Yeah.
Behind the Spinner Stadium, you could put something cool. Behind that's on the water.
Marty owns that now. So if it's
UMass Lowell
doable,
could
it
do
probably happen at this point.
But there, I mean, it's really a shame that we never developed it. You know.
The riverfront seems to be probably the better idea. But
But that's all the Massachusetts mills, all housing, boot mills, pretty much all housing, especially facing the river, right?
There are. Well, again, those are all owned by Marty now. But what is it? What's the big subsidized housing building there? The River Place or something?
River.
Oh, down by the garage.
Oh, you're
Songus?
talking about the dorms that just went to.
No,
the tower.
Yeah.
Right?
By the Songus.
That's River Place.
Okay.
There's some room behind there you could do.
Yeah. It's like a park.
Oh, what about the mill they're rehabbing? Over by St. John's. I'm going to say St. John's, but over by, what is that? Saints Memorial? Is that what they still call it?
Saints
That?
Medical Center.
Yeah, over there. That canal, that building isn't done yet, right?
Oh, no, I don't believe you. You're right.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have something in there.
The convergence of the Concord and the Merrimack.
Yeah, that'd be a great place for a
Yeah.
City councilors, you're listening?
rooftop
brainstorming
dining.
here.
Yeah.
I like
it's,
it.
Maybe you can.
Be the Lowell Forward plan. Put it in the Lowell Forward plan.
Jack is either disgusted or checked out.
I don't know. Poverty is big business in Lowell.
It certainly is.
I don't know where you're going to get all this money. I don't,
Developer.
Who's
Maybe.
gonna? We're stuck with certain conditions because we tapped into the whole idea of history. So now all the historical credits have paid off for a bunch of things, and we're handcuffed by the confines of those contracts.
Point.
The national park has it outlived itself, right? Like, should we turn our backs on
No,
the
we need to
national
bring
park?
back the trolleys.
We already
I
made
mean,
a decision on that.
We need a good grocery store. We need a good Trader Joe's downtown.
Who's going to?
Yeah.
Who's
Do
going
they take EBT cards?
Yes, they
Yes,
should take
they
ABT. They should take the ABT.
Do they have a Sharps box?
No. I think if we can do NIPS redemption, right?
Oh, there you go. That could be a
They do NIPS redemptions.
No, they
No,
don't
they
do
don't.
NIPS redemption.
We could, though.
nip
That would
snip
be great.
redemption.
That would be
proposing
great
that.
for people to make
They
money
wanted to
off.
Nips and needles.
Nips and
right?
needles.
$2.
Instead of that should be Lowell's instead of Mills to Martinis. It's nips and needles and Lowell.
Nips and needles to nickels.
Oh, there you go.
And on that note, that's the
I think I know my next column.
always good to reconnect with you guys. Jack Mitchell, Mikaela Hondros-McCarthy, the hyphen batch. Thank you, guys. That's
Thank
the
you.
Pod Squad, and thank all of you for joining us here on Inside Lowell. As we like to say, if Lowell is your home, this is your place. Till next time, talk to you.